Hi folks, welcome to the Kit Room, my new series where I'm going to be discussing the equipment that I use to film, photograph and sound record wildlife. So in this first episode I'm going to be discussing my main camera rig based on the Sigma 60-600mm lens and the Red Komodo X camera. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. All of this equipment I have purchased myself. I have no links with any companies, affiliate links or anything of that nature, so it's all my honest opinion, having used this equipment for over a year now, in the case of the Red Komodo X, and several years with the lens, and that's the case with the equipment that I'll be discussing in future episodes. So I'm doing this as kind of like a part 1, part 2 in the sense of my main camera kit. So in this first episode, I'm going to discuss how I build up the actual camera rig. And then in the second episode, I will then go on to talk through what's in my main camera bag. And of course, all this kit will be in there, but there's extras as well. So we'll go through that at that time. Now, many years ago, whilst I was studying on the master's degree for wildlife documentary production, one of my fellow students asked my advice on which camera he should buy. And at the time I was using the Panasonic GH5, a camera that I loved using, and so I heartily recommended it to him and was able to hand it over to him, and he was able to look through it and work out whether it was good for him. In the end, he actually bought one, used it for a wildlife film on monkeys that led on to winning several awards. So obviously my advice didn't lead him astray, as it were. Part of that conversation, I said to him something that he was a little bit surprised at, in that what I said was, you're not really buying a camera. It's the way to think of it. It's you're buying a system, really, because even though you have the camera and lens and so, you know, you think that might be it. It isn't. It tends to go down sort of various rabbit holes of needing this, that and the other. Now, one of the reasons for that is during the actual manufacturing and design process, companies make choices, design decisions that can help us or actually hinder us using the gear after we've bought it. And the Red Komodo is no exception. So I'll be discussing some of those issues and workarounds that I've done to get this kit up to a suitable thing to use. Right then, let's get to it. So we'll start with the lens. The Sigma 60-600mm F4.5-6.3 DG OS HSM Canon EOS EF mount lens here is a fantastic lens. Now, I had to write all that down, and why they insist on using so many letters and things and numbers to describe their equipment, it baffles me. But there you go. Now, it comes in around about 3 kilograms, this lens, so it's not a light lens by any means. And it's my only bugbear with it, really, is I wish it was a bit lighter. So the first thing that I've done is I've covered it in a neoprene cover. Now, there's several variances of these covers. They're quite thin, only 2 millimeters or so neoprene, but they are very good in protecting your lens from knocks, scratches, moisture, things like that. It just helps to protect your gear. And the fact that it comes in camouflage colours and things is a bonus. This one here is the real tree design. So basically all it does is just stretch over the gear. So I'll put this over the lens hood. Once in place, that's basically it. There's no need to really take that off. And that's one thing I am going to mention as well, is the equipment that's laid out in front of me is it's the first time since I bought the camera that I've actually taken this all apart purely for this video. Once I've rebuilt it up today, then essentially it will stay like that and until I have to modify things, but generally speaking I build it and leave it. Okay, so the lens hood goes on. I always use the lens hood. I've often seen photographers not using lens hoods, and the difference to the image is considerable. If they were to take a photo of a subject with the lens cover off and the lens cover on, compared them on the computer, you would see a difference. And so therefore I'll always have it on. And generally, even if I put the polarizing filter onto the front of the lens, I'll still put the lens hood on over that and then just take it off if I need to adjust the filter. But generally speaking, the hood is always on the front. Now, the second modification that I've done is I've wrapped the focus ring and the zoom ring with these tie wraps. So I daisy chained one tie wrap into another, and into a circle, and then tighten them on and then cut the ends off. So the reason I've done that on both the zoom and the focus ring is so that it makes it easier to take hold of the focus ring or the zoom ring, and I can even adjust the focus with one finger, which is very difficult to do without that. You're grabbing hold of the lens and having to physically move it, and that can be quite awkward, especially when you're in a hide and it's all dark and you can't quite work out which is the focus ring, which is the zoom ring. It wastes time. With having these stubs sticking out, makes it very easy just for a couple of fingers to move the lens whilst I'm sort of back here and so on, and very cheap to do. Now, the third thing is I've attached a follow focus gear. So this is a 0.8 module gear. Basically all it does is just go around the lens and then it snaps together like that. And then once that's in place, just tighten it up a little. And then once that's in place, it's left. After that, I'll just leave everything on. Now, this lens has a Arco Swiss mount built into the handle. A little bit awkward in the sense that Arco Swiss for filmmakers is a relatively rare mount. For photographers, they are often find tripods that have Arco Swiss, but for filmmaking, it's a bit of a rare one. And so I've had to buy an adapter, which I'll talk about just shortly. That's the lens. The heart of a system really is the lens. No matter how good the camera sensor, if you've got poor glass in front of it, you're going to generate a poor quality image. And so investing in the best lens you can get is the way forward, really, no matter what camera you have. Now, this lens is the Canon EOS EF mount, which is standard really in wildlife filmmaking. Canon have dominated the lens market for wildlife filmmaking for years, and generally speaking, EF is the way that most people have gone. The best camera lens for wildlife filmmaking is the Canon 50 to 1000mm, and again that's got an EF mount. I'd love to buy one of those lenses. Unfortunately, I don't have the £50,000 that is required to buy one. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part of the kit, which of course is the camera. Now, the Red Komodo X is excellent. I absolutely adore the image that comes off it. It's a global shutter camera, and I'm not really going to discuss much about the camera itself in the sense of settings or what its capabilities are, because there's many videos online that have done a better job perhaps than I would. in this video I'm just going to discuss how I actually build it up. Now, the Komodo X was first released with the RF mount, but since Nikon have taken over the company, they now have the Nikon Z mount. Again, Nikon do make various lenses for wildlife, but generally speaking, I say we're into sort of the Canon territory. Now, my only real issues with this camera are its lack of weatherproofing and its lack of protection for the the connector ports and things like that. So this camera was originally designed as a crash cam. Now it comes in two variants. So you've got the Red Komodo, and then later is the Red Komodo X. Why they didn't heavily build weatherproofing into this camera, it baffles me. And so we have to do workarounds. We have to make sure that we never get this camera wet, and also it's very easy to get ingress of soil, sand and so on. You've got these big ports, vents at both sides of it. So sand, that potentially could ruin the camera, any camera really, but even more so with one that's not been designed to try and prevent some of that. Okay, so we'll get to build it out. So the first thing that I'm going to pop in is the memory card. So I use the Angelbird AV Pro SE CFexpress B 1 TB card, and that pops in there. Now, I have had a couple of issues over the year with the card overheating. Generally speaking, when you've filled the card, I've often had a card temperature error warning flash up, and also occasionally I've had a read-write error. Generally speaking, if I stop recording and press record again, that error goes away and off it goes again. So those are the only real issues that I've had with the cards. I do have two cards. So the next thing that I'm going to fit is the Wi-Fi antenna. It does come with two Wi-Fi antennas. There's a longer one, but I always just keep the short one on there like that. And the next thing we're going to do, because the camera is an RF mount, I've got to fit an adapter to go from the RF to the EF. So I've gone for the KippertTie adapter, and it's basically just a block of metal that's there's no glass internally or anything like that. And also it allows all of the electronics to talk to the lens from the camera. So I'll just put this on. Then we'll pop that. I'll just put the cover in there for the minute. Not the easiest mount, this design they've put on here. So as I was saying, the manufacturers, when they build and design these things, they do make, in a sense, errors that we have to later address, and or workarounds just to keep things all good. And one of them is making sure that there's no movement on this adapter. It is a good fit, it's a good tight fit, but we have the KippertTie chin strap that comes with the adapter. I pretty much think remember that it did. And so this goes onto the camera like this, but also it gives us 2 rows of 1/4 inch thread mounting points both sides. So I'll just go ahead and fit this. So I'll just use the red tool, a multi-tool. It's got pretty much everything in here for what you need. Now, when attaching accessories, it's always a good idea just to loosely get every screw started before you start tightening any of them up. That's just to make sure that everything aligns well. So it's 2 on that side, 2 on this side, and then 2 on the base. So that's the side one started, and then there's 2 into the adapter. I'll do these up tight first. There we go. Do find some of these multi-tools a bit awkward to use. A lot easier when you have the individual tools, as it were. Now, one of the reasons that once I've fitted all of this, I don't take it off again, because most of these accessories are built with aluminium alloy, or as you in the States call it, aluminum. So that alloy is a relatively brittle and soft metal, and you could easily damage the threads by constantly screwing things into the mounts and then unscrewing and so on and so forth. So same with the 2 screws in the bottom there. They're very thin and very small, so it'd be very easy to damage them over time. And so once they're on, that's it. They're left on there now. So what I'll do is I'll now fit the camera onto the lens. There we go. Now, as you can see, there is a height difference between the point of the base of the tripod and the base of the camera. Now, what I need to do is put a bridging plate, some sort of support mechanism between these 2, and so that you're not stressing the point at which the lens attaches to the camera. And also, when doing this kind of build, it's always a good idea to do it vertically so that you've got all the weight evenly distributed on the mount. You're not stressing the mount at all. And so, as I've said, I've made a bracket. Now, generally speaking, most camera rigs are built using rails. I do have a rail system, but I decided to build one myself based on just aluminium plates to keep the weight down, but also to maintain that strength and integrity. Once this is all put together, this is extremely strong and works very well. It also has kept the cost down because, fortunately for me, I have the skills to be able to manufacture this kind of thing, and so we'll get to putting it on. So the first thing is to put the quick release plate onto the camera. Now, one of the considerations when doing all of this is I want to be able to open once it's all on the rig, to be able to separate the lens and the camera so that I can get a 1.4 adapter in place and then put the 2 together. And so I need to be able to slide either the camera or the tripod. And so what I'll do is I'll fit this quick release plate to the base of the camera, making sure that it's completely square. You want to make sure that the screws are tight but not over tight, or else you could damage things. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the tripod already has the Arco Swiss sort of quick release design built into the handle here. And so what I've got there is an Andoer quick release plate base. And so I'll screw that into the plate. making sure that it's completely square. And then on the top, I've got the Niwa base plate. Now, the reason I chose the Niwa was because it is a similar design. It's sort of like similar to the Manfrotto quick release plate, and which is also very similar to the Satchler. And so you can put a Manfrotto plate onto the Satchler head, which is on the tripod head, which is the one I'm using. Get these screws started. Now, as I say, for me, generally speed isn't an issue, because once this is built up, it won't be coming apart again for quite some time. Let's make sure it's square. Now, there are companies, of course, that make the similar things to what I've got here, and various clamps and so on. But they do tend to be quite expensive, because they're really only designed to fit one camera, and the number that they're going to sell of those is going to be quite low, of course, and so need to recover the costs. And so it becomes quite prohibitive. People like myself. And then we've got the quick release plate for the actual to fit onto the tripod. Okay, so I'll just take this just off for the moment. So that would slide on like that, and then of course this one drops in, and I can push the two together. And then, of course, as I said, if later on down the line I want to put something like an extender, 2x or 1.4 converter, I can simply just open these up, fit it, tighten everything up, and then it's all good to go. Okay, so we tighten everything up. And one thing about the Satchler Active 10 and the tripod plate, it's actually a side loading plate, so you can just simply drop it in like that and then tighten everything up, as opposed to having to push it in from the end. Makes things very easy. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is build up the top of the camera. So I've got the adapter there. So I'm using the small HD monitor that was built in collaboration with Red, and so it's specific to this camera. I always keep it in a protective bag, and I have two connecting cables. So I say it's a small HD design, but it's built with Red, designed with them. And so to be able to get that onto the top of the camera and communicating, the first thing we have to do is put on this adapter plate here. So this goes onto the top. There are some guiding pins on it. And do make sure that these bolts are very tight, because they are supporting the weight of the camera, which I'll show you later on. And so the next thing we have to fit is the top handle. So I've got the Red compact top handle, which does have a record button base built into it. And so this fits onto the top of that adapter plate. Again, make sure this is nice and tight and secure. Okay, and then the monitor simply slides onto that mount just there. And this is one of my bugbears with this monitor, is the attachment, the clamp screw. It's only a very thin screw. At some point I pretty much manage I'm going to strip it, and it's very awkward to actually tighten up, and so I've made a slight modification by adding a screw to the side of it. And then the cable slots in here. Now this is the short cable. It's about 200mm, and I also have a meter long one, just in case I want to take this off and mount it elsewhere. Now these cables are specifically designed for this purpose. They look exactly like USB-C cables and but aren't, and quite expensive. Why they designed it in this way, making it look exactly like a USB-C cable, God only knows, because there is the potential obviously of connecting the wrong cable, whether it would damage the electronics, and I don't know. I wouldn't like to even try it. And so I've put some green tape on the cables just to make sure I don't make a mistake one day. And so that's the monitor onto the camera. And so I'm going to start to sort of build out the back. Now, the Red Komodo X has a V-mount on the back of it, but it has been designed, you can't get a full-size V-mount battery on. You have to go for the micro size. So I do have an Anton Bauer Titon Micro 150 that can slot straight onto the back of the camera. Off you go. But I don't tend to do that. If I was going to put this the camera onto a gimbal, then I would go with this battery. But for the work that I'm doing, this only gives me, I think, I don't use it very often. It's about half an hour of something. That's a guess, but I can't really remember. And so I don't use it very often. So what I do is I attach the Mutiny IO. It's the Mutiny KX-IO unit. So what this is an adapter that goes allows you to go from the V-lock micro to standard, because there's plenty of room at the back, but it also has pretty much every single input output port that you could perhaps want. It's got D-tap, power in and power out, and it's also one of the features I absolutely love about it. It's got a record button just in the right place for where I want one. Now, when you put the chin strap onto the camera, that actually restricts being able to get to the record button at the front of the camera. And so it's great that I've got both the one here and the one in the top handle. And so this unit just plugs into the input out the IO port and slides in place. And then that allows me to attach the full-size brick, very heavy V-lock batteries. Now, I've got the Anton Bauer Titon SL150s, and I think these are great. I've not had any issues apart from one, and that is when you don't use the battery for a sort of length of time, it goes into sort of self-protection mode. Essentially, it shuts itself down. Now, I have been told a long time ago, when I was using these batteries on a different camera, that if you attach the battery onto the camera and switch the camera on, that should kick the battery back up into working mode. I couldn't get that to work on the previous camera. I haven't had the issue on this one because I know that there's an issue. Whenever I'm going out on a shoot and it's gone into self-protection mode, all I do is slide this onto the charging unit, and that wakes the battery up straight away. So then we're good to go after that. And it takes several days for it to actually go into the self-protection mode. Now, the other thing I like about these batteries is it has this digital display on the side of it. When the battery isn't on the camera, it just gives you a percentage of charge. But when you've attached this to the camera and switch the camera on, then it jumps to a length of time that you should be able to use this battery for, depending on the load of the camera. So what the camera's taking, it works out that you've got a certain amount of recording time left. So that would go onto the back just there. So the next thing I'm going to fit is the follow focus unit. And the way I do this is I've got a small rig 15mm rod clamp with built-in NATO rail, and I fit this onto the side of the cage, just here. Fiddly to get these screws started, and then I attach the 200mm 15mm diameter carbon fibre rod into the holder there, tighten that up, and then I've gone for the small rig F60 follow focus, and I've been wanting to buy one of these and use one of these for a very long time, but it was one of those accessories that I couldn't quite justify the price of it before. I was thinking, well, I've got this tie wrap mod that I've done and that works well, and do I really need a follow focus? When I got this and then started to use it, I'd wished I'd bought it years ago. It really does make a difference to me to be able to simply slide it on, push it up to the gear, just tighten it onto the rod, and that's it, you're good to go. And of course, when you're stood behind the camera like this, it's very easy just to focus by turning the dial like that, and really made a difference. I wished I'd bought, well, as I say, I wished I'd bought one a long time ago. Okay, so that's that side of the camera almost done. So the next thing I'm going to do is the audio. Now, the Red Komodo X does have very good audio capabilities. However, I find them extremely difficult to use because the actual meter on the monitor is very difficult to see. It's not very big at all. You can have it on the top of the camera, but again, when you're back of the camera, you've got to keep doing this to look at the meters and so on. And also, there's no dials or knobs on the camera body to be able to sit and then just ride the audio and feather it in that way. And so the workaround that I've done is to fit a Zoom F3 recorder, which is a 32-bit float recorder, onto the rig. And so that's what I'm going to build up now. So the first thing is to attach the microphone bracket. So this again is one that I've made. I've taken a bracket off another camera, and I just screw it onto the cage at the side here, and then tighten that up. Now, this isn't a perfect scenario because the lens does make noise. The motors, either for the autofocus, which I don't use, well, hardly at all, to be honest, the microphone will pick that up, but it will also pick up the image stabilization, which, even though the camera's on a tripod, I do tend to have the stabilization switched on for when I'm panning and so on, and so the microphone being here does actually pick that noise up. Of course, we can take it out in post, but better not to have it in the first place. Now, I do have two options for the microphone, and the main one that I tend to go for is the Sennheiser ME66. Now, this microphone it comes in two parts. You've got the actual sort of microphone section, that's the ME66 part, and then you've got the K6 power module. And so what this allows you to do is put a battery into the microphone to power it, which I don't do because I'm using phantom power from the camera, but that's an option that's there for you. And it's a 19mm microphone, similar to the Rode NTG2. Now, the weight difference is quite considerable. The ME66 is a very light microphone and very sensitive. It's a hypercardioid pickup pattern, and And so it does work. It sort of does work well at the side of the camera, but does pick up some of the noise. This is an option that I don't tend to go for, generally speaking. So just slide the microphone into the windshield. So this is the Saramonic windshield. And I just push it in and then tighten it up there. Now, the Red Komodo X does have a dual XLR socket that you can, or double socket that you can fit onto the side of the camera, and then cables into the back of the camera. But as I say, I'm going for this Zoom F3 design. So what I've done is 40mm or 400mm XLR cable into the back of the microphone. And then what I've built a bracket that fits onto the back of the camera like so, like this. Or back of the handle, sorry, should I say. So this allows me to sort of spin it up, and if I want to get it out of the way, change it whilst changing the battery. So the Zoom F3 recorder is a 32-bit float recorder, which basically means that I can forget about the audio to a degree. So as long as the sound hitting the microphone isn't strong enough to clip the actual microphone itself, then this recorder will record the quietest that the microphone can pick up to the loudest. It's a sort of it's not a total get out of jail card free solution, but as good as we can get. So what it does, it slides on here, I'll screw into the bottom like that. I can tighten that up if I want. And then the XLR goes into the top there. And then the way I power it, the Zoom F3 does have two internal AA batteries. That'll give you a couple of hours recording time. But the way I do it is I power it from the camera. And so there's a USB-C in the back of the camera here, and then that comes up into the side of the recorder. And then to take the audio out, I've at the base of the recorder here, we've got line out and headphone jacks. And so I'm using the line out. That way the camera is getting a stable signal, and sort of is pretty much kept even. Whereas if I want to record, get better audio, have more control with it, then I can actually set to the recorder to record as well as the camera's recording. So I get two recordings. So the way I get it into the camera is you've got the LEMO 5-pin connector here that goes into the back of the camera, and that goes to a female TRS. There's the 2.5mm TOS, and then I've got the male to male that then goes into the line out in the recorder. So that is my Red Komodo rig, my main camera rig. Now, the biggest issue that I have really with this camera is the length of time it takes to power up, because there are many situations where you want to conserve battery and you switch the camera off and you're waiting for the wildlife. And so I'll just show you, switch the camera on there, and it goes through its initialization. Now, what an annoying thing in one way is that the screen on top of the camera actually shows you the image that the lens is pointing at quite a bit quicker than the monitor does. And we say it's about 40 seconds, I think, to boot up totally. So there's been many times when I've been screaming at the camera, wanting it to go live as quick as possible. So it's now live on the top. And then we've got the feed through on the monitor there. So with this rig, I can sit at the back here. I've got a wonderful monitor. The monitor does have all of the settings that the camera has internally, so I don't have to go into the buttons on the camera itself. I can do it all from the monitor. It is touch screen and very bright. And there you have it. Now, just a note on this camera is quite heavy. I'll just show you there. So that's 19 pounds, but 8.8 kilograms. So it's a fairly heavy-ish rig. And so you need a decent tripod, and more importantly, the tripod head to be able to deal with this weight so that you can comfortably balance it properly. And the Active 10 tripod head deals with this camera beautifully, and I really do adore using it. So here we have so this is there's two versions of the Flowtech tripod. So you have this is the Flowtech 100, but this is the O'Connor version. The difference, essentially, I mean, I gather there's a couple of other differences, but what those are I forget. But the handles here to drop the legs are black, as opposed to the standard Flowtech tripod, which are red. And I wanted to go for something that was a little less obtrusive. So in the outdoors, I wanted the black version. And this tripod head is a quick release design, and so you lift the flap, and if you lift the flap all the way, then it just lifts off the tripod, and so then you can drop it onto a slider or some other mount. It's simply a pin that drops into the bottom, and so all you have to do is just drop that on, lift that flap, and or press it in, and then that's it. It's locked back in place, and that's how you level it as well. You just open the flap, move the ball, and then put the flap lever back down and in place. And as I say, the tripod quick release plate is side mount, so you just drop the camera onto it like that. Hello there. And it just drops in place like that. And then we tighten up and level it. So that's it. That's my full standard kit. Another great feature of this camera rig is that you can hot swap batteries without stopping the recording. And the way to do that is I'll just demonstrate with, I'll put the power it on. And the way to do that is you have the D-tap to power LEMO cable adapter. And that fits into the power socket on the back of the camera just there. It'd be, I'll just take the Vmount off. It would be better to have this cable fitted in place, just because it's a little bit awkward with that cable just to get it in and out. So if you was using the rig in a studio or something like that, or even out in the field, if you had that cable tied out the way and you want to hot swap the batteries. So if you connect the D-tap into the D-tap on the Anton Bauer batteries, and then take that one off, as you can see, we still have power, we can still be recording. You could slide that one into place and then take the D-tap out, and there you go, hot swap batteries with 2 batteries, or you could do it with 3 by having this one and then having the 2 larger, which is what I've got. So there, a very useful feature, particularly when in a hide. Now, most of the time when I'm using the camera, I tend not to monitor the audio, simply because of the 32-bit float. I pretty much know that once I've got that into post, I can manipulate it how I like. But if I do want to monitor the audio, I've got 2 options to do that. And so the headphones that I tend to use at the moment are the Bauer Dynamics DT770 Pros. And one of the, because this is a 32 ohm headphones, the Zoom F3 can power them. Some high impedance headphones, the Zoom isn't able to power, but these it can. So if I want to, I can come out of the recorder in the headphone socket at the back, and I've still got the line out going into the camera. But what I tend to do is to actually monitor what the camera is hearing by going straight into the back of the camera there. And so, yeah, that makes it very straightforward and easy to then monitor the audio. So with this this rig, one of the features that I was keen to maintain was a level of adaptability. So if I want to remove the camera from the whole rig, it's very easy for me to do that if I want to, say, put a wide angle in. So I'll just demonstrate that. So I just untighten that for the actual lens mount and untighten the clamp. Just remove the follow focus and then simply pull the whole thing off like that. And that means then I can simply drop that camera onto the tripod with the tripod place, very easily attach a zoom lens or a wide angle lens onto the front there. And perhaps remove the microphone if I'm doing landscape work, which I probably would do because it'll see it. But yeah, that all of a sudden becomes something I can carry and do landscape work. So again, remove the lens there, and I can simply then slide that back on very quickly and easily. And if I want to attach a extender in between the camera and the lens, that's very easy for me to do. I just open it up, lens caps off, mount it in onto the camera lens, and then push the 2 together, making sure that it's aligned, and then tighten up, and that's it, ready to go. And the same to remove it. It's very straightforward, very quick. And of course I would tighten up the base plates, make sure everything is tight and secure, and then that would give me 720 millimeters of lens very quickly and easily. So to remove it, again, simply lens caps on and then push it back together and tighten up, and there, off I'm going again with a 600mm. And so that's why I did it, that built the base in that way. And I can also balance in 2 ways. I can simply put the camera onto the tripod head and then slide the rig back and forth to find the balance point, but if they're not quite achieving that in that way, then what I can do is open both of these base plates up and then slide the whole rig forward or backwards within these two base plates on the actual camera and the lens. So again, maintaining as much flexibility as I can. I'll just tighten that up there. So I'll just so what I'll do now, I'll just take the part of the rig apart just to demonstrate what's left, what actually goes into the camera bag. So the first thing is I'll take off the monitor. I'll say that goes into a nice little furry bag. Take off the microphone. Which again into another protective bag, and flip the then I keep the cable in the same bag as well. And then the recorder, I'll just tighten that up a little. Which goes into its own little carry case as well. And now I don't like taking this LEMO 5 pin out on a regular basis, so quite often I will take that off and it'll be sort of held out of the way. So I'll put that into the TRS into the bag there, the USB-C into the little bag. Sometimes I'll take off the LEMO, but I can see that at some point this cable or plug is going to damage. If I can take it off, put it in. And so that's my recorder off. Then the battery comes off, goes into a protective bag. Now, quite often what I'll do is once I've used the battery up, I'll not put it back in the bag. That way I know that one's a used battery when I put it into my case. Then the last thing is simply to reverse the lens hood on the lens there. And then that whole unit goes straight into my backpack, and it lives like that now. The only time it comes apart is if I'm going to put landscape lenses and things like that, but generally speaking, that's how it's maintained all the time. Well, please feel free to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the film, and thank you for watching, and bye for now.